promise continues. A letter about the promise. Dear friend, you don't know me. That's okay. You shouldn't trust a stranger with your money. So, before you give us anything, let me tell you why this organization exists. Then, I invite you to look for yourself. The promise. On July 14th, 1984, I left the island of St. Kitts, formerly known as Liamuiga, with a promise. Before boarding a plane to the United States, I told both of my grandmothers, when I go to the United States, I will not quit until I find a way to help people ease their financial burden, one person at a time. I was a boy. I didn't know exactly how I would keep that promise. I only knew that I would. That promise has followed me ever since. The years that followed. For years, I helped people quietly. When I encountered someone sleeping at a bus stop, panhandling, struggling to eat, seeking shelter from the cold, or facing another immediate financial burden, I helped when I could. I used my own resources. I didn't ask strangers for money. I didn't build a campaign around it. And I didn't photograph the people I helped. Which brings me to something important. Why there aren't photographs? For years, I helped people quietly and privately. I didn't document their hardship. Their dignity mattered more than having a photograph to prove what I had done. I didn't want someone's worst day to become my evidence. I listened to God. Their privacy mattered. Their dignity mattered. I was there to help, not to document. Now the work is growing beyond one person. As we build a team, we will document our work responsibly, with consent, transparency, and respect. We can show the work without exploiting the people we serve. The promise continues. The boy who left St. Kitts in 1984 is no longer a boy. But the promise didn't stay on that airplane. It came with me. It became a life's work. On July 31st, 2009, Liamuiga International Outreach, LIO, was registered with the Washington State Secretary of State's office as a religious/corporate sole nonprofit. What began as one person's promise has become an organized effort to help individuals and families facing financial hardship. But there is a difference between wanting to help and building something capable of helping. The work can no longer be carried by one person alone. It requires structure. It requires stewardship. It requires people willing to help. And it requires donors who deserve to know exactly what their generosity makes possible. That's why you're here. Our mission. Our mission is simple: to help individuals and families relieve financial strain through structured charitable outreach, direct support initiatives, and faith-rooted service. Financial hardship can arrive quietly. A hotel room, a rent or mortgage payment, a utility bill, a medical obligation, a student loan payment, a car payment, groceries. Sometimes the difference between stability and crisis isn't millions of dollars. Sometimes it's enough to get someone through this week. We believe dignity increases when burdens decrease. We do not exist to accumulate assets. We exist to deploy them. Through voluntary charitable contributions, we fund programs designed to help individuals and families navigate defined financial pressures, administered with internal governance, documented allocation procedures, and transparent reporting consistent with applicable nonprofit regulations. Contributions are gifts, not investments. They confer no ownership, equity, or promised financial return. They exist to advance a charitable and faith-based mission. Stewardship. Trust is not something an organization gets because it asks for it. Trust is earned. Every dollar entrusted to a charitable organization carries a responsibility. Our obligation is not only to serve, it is to steward wisely. We maintain defined separation between mission, our faith-based and charitable purpose, fundraising, voluntary charitable contributions, program distribution, charitable assistance initiatives. We are committed to clear communication, documented impact, and lawful conduct across every jurisdiction in which we operate. We want donors to ask questions. We want donors to examine the work. We want donors to understand exactly where their money goes. Because giving should never require blind trust. America gives, In 2025, Americans gave an estimated $617.2 billion to charitable organizations. Individuals alone gave approximately $394.2 billion. Religious organizations received approximately $151.58 billion, the largest recipient category reported by Giving USA. Think about that. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Millions of donors. An extraordinary expression of generosity. But a number that large creates an equally large responsibility. What happens to the generosity after it is given? That's a question we take seriously. Donors deserve help too. We believe something else. The person who gives and the person who needs help are not two different kinds of people. Hardship doesn't ask whether you're generous. A donor can struggle too. A person who helped someone yesterday may need help tomorrow. A family that gives when it can may someday be the family that needs someone to give to them. So, we believe charity should remember both sides of the relationship. Donors deserve help too. Not because giving should come with a guaranteed personal benefit, but because human dignity doesn't belong exclusively to the person receiving help. It belongs to everyone. Why continue? Because financial pressure can erode hope quietly. Because hardworking people can find themselves facing burdens they never expected. Because sometimes a small act of help can make a meaningful difference. Because faith without service is incomplete. And because a promise made by a boy in Stkitts still matters to the man he became. This organization was not formed around spectacle. It was formed around a promise that one life faithfully lived in service can lighten another. The promise. Maybe you've never met me. Maybe you never will. Maybe you'll never know the name of the person your contribution helps. And that's okay, because this was never supposed to be about knowing me. It's about knowing that someone cares. A boy stood on an island in 1984 and made a promise. He didn't know how long it would take. He didn't know how many people he would meet. He didn't know that one day strangers would be invited to help him carry it. He only knew one thing: he would not quit. 42 years later, I'm still keeping that promise. But I can't carry it alone anymore. That's why LIO exists. And perhaps that's why you're here. The invitation: you came because something made you curious. You read the story, you met the founder, you read the promise. You saw why there aren't photographs from those early years. You saw what we're trying to build. Now I'm not going to tell you what to think. Decide for yourself. If this mission resonates with you, give what moves you. Your voluntary contribution strengthens our capacity to assist individuals and families facing financial hardship. If you're not ready to give, that's okay. Ask a question, look deeper, share the story. Come back later. Trust should never be demanded. It should be earned. And if, after looking, you decide we're worthy of yours, perhaps you'll help us ease one person's burden. Maybe someone you've never met. Maybe someone you'll never know, but someone who needed someone to care. The promise continues, not because one person can save everyone, but because one person can help one person, then another, and another, one person at a time. That's how a promise becomes a movement. Will you help us carry it? With respect and stewardship, Jabari Raw L., founder and governor, Liamuiga International Outreach, FBO. Note, since 2020, Americans have given a combined estimated total of $3.28 trillion to charity through 2025, according to annual data compiled by Giving USA.